to the planning committee. Right, first of all, minutes. Members, it's your wish I sign the correct and true record of the proceedings. Okay. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
Apologies received from councillors Nigel Carr, Ian Barrett and Dan Cribbin.
Right. I think it's full up otherwise, isn't it? Right. Members' interests. Disclosable.
No.
Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, for the application in Harding West, I will leave the room.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Party whipping arrangements.
No.
Members of the public, that means that people don't get together beforehand on a political basis and decide which way they're going to vote. They all vote as to what they hear tonight and what they've read. Right, a few things to tell you, which I'm sure you've heard before if you've been here before. If the fire alarm rings, it's not a test, so please go out as quick as you can via the way you came in. Please switch your mobile devices to silent. It says not having done his. I can't find it, so I don't know where I think I've left it in the car. The proceedings are being recorded. Speakers will have 3 minutes, and I'll give you a few extra seconds, then ask you to wind up. It's the only opportunity that you have to speak, so please don't interrupt at any other time. You'll obviously you won't clap, cheer and hiss or boo because you don't look that type. You'll see officers talking at the same time as you're talking, and it looks terribly bad manners, but it means points you're bringing up they're trying to get an answer for, so that when you finish talking we can answer your query or we can answer members' queries. Right, update on performance for members is 85% of majors on time now, so we've really gone up, and 6% of majors approved on appeal. You want to tell us about a few that have happened, Ray?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The West had an appeal that's been dismissed by the Secretary of State. Judicial review that was for a household application in Clipston has not been permitted to proceed. And Lutney Road Barbie judicial review, the Secretary of State is not defending that, so there will be a new appeal.
So, some good news for change. It's nice when committee actually reverse something and it stands up on appeal, so, which is so in West Devon's case. Okay, there are no applications withdrawn or determined in delegated powers, so we go straight to the first. Well, we would have done had the piece of paper not fallen off, but the first application, which is in Drayton, and which is 0527. Over to you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Lambert. I'm the case officer for this particular application. This is the second application for the redevelopment of the college site at Daventry Road West. Your committee resolved on the 1st of July to grant outline approval for 130 houses subject to reference to the Secretary of State and to a Section 106 agreement. This application that we're looking at today is for the redevelopment of the remainder of the college site with a 2 to 3 storey replacement college together with 3 playing pitches, landscaping, parking and parking. Access is to be from Daventry Road West with a secondary access from Yeomanry Way via the adjacent proposed residential site. County highways have now been satisfied with regard to access. The proposals will provide state-of-the-art facilities for 700 students with an ultra-modern, brightly coloured building, which we can see on the plans. There's the brightly coloured building. The proposal is in conformity with the West Northampton Joint Core Strategy and the DDC local plan. There's a conformity with the National Planning Policy Framework, apart from paragraphs 73 and 74, which refer to the loss of playing pitches. The loss of playing pitches is partly offset by the proposed provision of 3 variable sized pitches for 9, 7 and 5-a-side games within the proposed college site, and by assistance to be given to Drayton Grange FC to relocate some of their activities to vacant pitches at the headlands. In addition, Condition 20 requires a community access agreement to the pitches as recommended by Sport England to secure access to the new pitches for the public. Sport England acknowledged the proposed revised college lettings policy referred to in the report and recommendation could satisfy the community access requirements, but that remains to be submitted to and agreed. A very late update there. We have a draft agreement that came in at 5:30, but we haven't had time to look at it in any detail yet. In addition, the details of the mitigation for the loss of the pitches, there still needs to be agreed, hence continuing Sport England objection. The proposed 106 agreement is to secure the construction of the college before the majority of the houses are built. The Section 106 agreement for both sites was almost signed last Friday. The applicants received advice to the effect that they would be better off when the community infrastructure levy came in, which was yesterday, and declined to complete the agreement. This agreement now needs further revision. Sport England retained their objection. If your committee wish to approve the application, then, as with the earlier outline application for 130 houses, reference has to be made to the Secretary of State via the National Planning Casework Unit. In the previous case, the Secretary of State did not wish to intervene in your decision-making process. As per the recommendation in your committee papers, if again the Secretary of State decides not to intervene, then subject to a 106 agreement, the application can be approved. However, the terms of the agreement are significantly changed. If the terms of the agreement are significantly changed, the application may need to return to your committee for decision. That's the end of the.
Thank you, Richard.
The end of the story.
We have 3 speakers. First of all, Miss Wilkins is against the application. You have 3 minutes.
Firstly, I'd like to clarify that we don't object to Daventry keeping the college. However, we have concerns because there's no direct link between this and the application for the houses. If the application is approved, we believe there has to be a caveat between the two and a clause to confirm that the college will be built before any houses can be built. Our other concern is the loss of green space. Drayton Grange currently use the college grounds and have for many years. It's reported that the club have a new home, however I can confirm that no resolution has been found. The headlands were put forward as an option for them, along with the retained college pitches, but the cost of £2,200 per year is out of their league. They currently pay £400. If the solution is not found, then the cost is no more, they will have no choice to fold, which I hope you agree is a great shame. Regarding the plan for the college, the design of the college is out of keeping with the local environment with the yellow external decor. Due to the location within a housing area, it would be beneficial if the college was integrated into its surroundings, making use of wood or natural cladding on the building to ensure it's unified. We were advised the colour choices due to the corporate colour of the college, which does not seem to be a sound reason for the basis of a design and colour scheme of the prominent building. We would also request that all trees within the site for the college and the houses are protected and conditions applied to ensure none are removed. The application is for a 3-storey building, whilst all current buildings in the area are only 2 stories. A 3-storey college will impact significantly on the light and view of the local houses. If our figures are correct, we understand the college needs to secure £3.6 million from the land. A further 2.9 is being donated by the council and the remaining funds come from SEMLA. It's therefore feasible that a smaller piece of land could be sold to achieve the 3.6 deficit. This would then give the opportunity to keep more open green spaces, as well as allowing the college to have a greater footprint, keeping it to 2 stories high. There is allocated parking for only 90 cars, but yet 700 students and the staff are expected to attend. How is this enough? During the monitoring period, the reports detailed that the average speed on surrounding roads were about 40 miles an hour, often up to 50. The limit is 30. Neither application has raised any concern or mentioned the need for traffic calming measures to mitigate the increased traffic and danger. To those of you who are local residents of Daventry and know the junction and the area, surely you, like us, must have concerns about the dangers and the speeding and want to ensure that measures are put in place to prevent something happening before it's too late. The application includes a mention that the college will be enclosed by a fence. There's currently no ugly or unsightly fencing around the college. It will be an eyesore to all those who look directly at the site, looking like a prison. This is unnecessary and will remove any feel of a community facility that the college say they will be building. There was a mention at the consultation that it's required for safety, but we must ask, why is there no concern for safety with the present college? So if it's not necessary now, why in the future? We would like to propose that compromises could be achieved that would retain a college for Daventry whilst minimising the impact for residents. With just a few small changes to the plans, including a few less houses and the changing in site and height of the college, it would be possible for residents to be appeased while enough land would still be able to be provided by the necessary to provide for the necessary funds.
Could you wind up, please?
In addition, the compromise would provide open green spaces that could be given back and shared by the community, as well as retaining a home for Drayton Grange and appeasing Sport England. And the two drawings that you've got on there are just some potential other options.
Thank you. Mrs. Gain, Town Council.
Yes, Sheila Gane, Daventry Town Council. Daventry Town Council supports the redevelopment of the college, but would like to raise their concerns in relation to the redevelopment of the site. The District Council report does not refer to reports from responsible bodies objecting to this application. Neither does the report give any rationale for their reasons to ignore these objections. The Daventry Town Council are particularly concerned at the loss of recreation space and have noted this was also opposed by Sport England and the Football Association. To date, it would appear alternative suitable sporting facilities have not been made available to the clubs that currently use the fields. Daventry Town Council raises concern in relation to the flooding on Badby Road West, and we're disappointed to note that the engineer stated that he had no knowledge of flooding. As the parish council, we are consultees as we have such local knowledge. Subsequently, the Daventry Town Council are disappointed that their observations were not taken into account or measures taken to assure residents that the issue of the flooding would be resolved. We need to be mindful that sometimes when advice is not taken, major disasters can occur, and I would remind everyone of the Somerset levels. The Daventry Town Council would also like to highlight the objection made by the Environmental Agency in relation to Wilton Water not having sufficient capacity to treat the sewage flow from the development site. Should this application be approved, is the District Council ensuring measures are being taken to address this issue? The Daventry Town Council have asked that should this development be approved, measures also need to be taken to ensure road safety measures are put in place for both vehicles and pedestrians. This is particularly essential on the junction of Badby Road West, Yeomanry Way and Western Avenue. To conclude, the Town Council is supportive of the redevelopment of the college, but mindful of the problems that the development creates within the local community, and is therefore hopeful that conditions are put in place to mitigate the effects of the development.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Brennan Barrett, the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. So Northampton College has invested and managed the Daventry campus for 11 years at some cost to the actual college. We've worked in collaboration with Malton College to offer a fair curriculum. Currently, there are approximately 400 students at the college, but students attending college don't all attend between 9 and 3. They attend at different times, and if you're on apprenticeship, you might only attend for one block week or 1 day a week, which mitigates against the issues about parking. Unfortunately, the current position is not sustainable. Severe funding cuts to the further education sector, and more recently, an area review of the further education sector, which was announced last month, will look at colleges that are viable. Current provision is loss-making, and continued reduction in students because it's not a good environment to learn has been problematic, even though the students that do come to us get very, very good outcomes. The current facilities are poor and not fit for purpose. Even if the college was to invest more in the buildings, it would be too large and expensive to run. We've looked very carefully at the facilities and looked very carefully at the planning, putting many options forward to our corporation. The facilities we've looked at now and the plans that we've submitted now are the best we can do for the college, and also to ensure that we get the funding to support the current funds we're getting from Senate and Daventry District Council. As a corporation, our choices would have been to just close the college completely and sell all of the site. We chose not to do that. We have, where we can, made sure there were green spaces, and we have kept pitches. We have supported the community over many, many years at a very low cost, and we will try to do that with the pitches that are left if this planning is approved. The new college will mean that 16 to 18-year-olds do not have to leave Daventry to go to other colleges. It will also mean that there's an opportunity for vocational training of apprenticeships, which will make up for 700 students. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Local members for Drayton.
Thank you, Chairman. On this application, I refused the housing application because they didn't come together. How I see it now, that now the outline application for the housing has been approved, if this approval doesn't go through tonight, we could end up with even more houses on the site. So, therefore, I'm more mindful to vote with this application for that reason. I have got many concerns over this application. A lot of them have been mentioned already. That is the height of the building, the colour of the building, because I don't feel that it fits in well with the street scene. The Drayton Grange Football Club, I know they do much fundraising to try and support themselves, but there still hasn't been, on the last application it was put forward that if they have to seek alternative site it would be at no cost. Obviously that still hasn't been sorted at all, and as they've said, that it would look like it would be closure for the club, which would be, a shame. So if they are going to have to move somewhere else, I would like to see that it is at no extra cost. I totally agree about the fencing around the college. The only fencing that is around the area at the moment is a wooden fence. There is no huge fence securing the college, and I would like to see it open. In the application it said that there will be CCTV, so all that can be watched, so I don't see that is an issue. Parking is another real concern of mine. I see in this application it says about encouraging people to have an alternative to the car. Most teachers that I know who work in education actually do drive to school. I would like to know how many of those spaces is going to be filled up by teaching and staff that work there, because my concern is where are they going to park, because Badbury Road West is it's already full up during the day. One side we park in, they have got speeding issues. I am really surprised that the highways didn't pick up on any of the issues that we put forward last time. On the crossing, we already know that the Grange School is full to capacity, therefore any primary children that move into that site are going to be going to alternative schools. I don't know how they're going to cross some of these roads because they were a nightmare already in the morning. And as for different students attending the courses at different time, generally there's still a core time within that day where those students will be. So whether they have a late start in the morning or an early finish in the afternoon, generally around that lunchtime, they will be there. So, I do have many concerns over this application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Maria,
Thank you, Chairman. Just to pick up on some of your points and some of the points mentioned by the speakers, there is a shared Section 106 in draft, which covers both applications, and that will make a proper link between the two, the housing application and the college application. So that's how we're mitigating people's concerns around the college and the housing application. The Section 106 as drafted includes a clause to mitigate the impact on Drayton Grange Football Club, so that it will be possible for them to relocate without an additional burden. All statutory objections are referred to in the report. There is nothing's been left out. There was no Environment Agency objection to this application, where there was initially one to the housing application. The road safety measures in the 106 are as per the previous application, which is probably why that's not mentioned in this report. So they are included in the draft. And you mentioned other existing problems regarding road safety. Well, a Section 106 can only mitigate the impact that this application has. Section 106 agreement cannot be used to fix existing problems. So, it's important that members remain aware of that, because we can't use it as a fix-all for other issues.
Thank you, Maria. Anders. Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Again, I have to mention redundant pitches because there weren't enough children to play on them. The headlands, the Burton's Meadows, and the Hollows. The figure quoted to me tonight that they were paying £400 per year, which will rise to £2,000 per year. Actually works out £10 a week, which even with my simple maths is a pound a week for each child, which is far cheaper than any of the sports facilities around, including table tennis, squash and gymnastics at the Phoenix. So I don't see that as a problem. I do take on board the lady's concern regarding the colour. I mean, even when I'm down with the kids, and they want a bright building, well, I know where not to hide in case there's an air raid. Whilst we talk about it flippantly, let's face it, I think the colour should be negotiated as part of the conditions going forward. But, I'm mindful of what our officer has said regarding substantial changes to the original 106, which was spoken about with regard to houses. I'm also mindful of the fact that he says that if there are substantial changes, then we could end up back in this chamber talking the very matter through again, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm an electrician by trade, and years ago when I left school, I did an apprenticeship at British Tinkin, and I used to go day release to Booth Lane College in Northampton, and this is in 1990, when, well before it was all done and expanded and everything. The car park in there was very, very small. They didn't have anywhere near the amount that is planned for here. Did you say it was 90? Nowhere near that. I was an apprentice. We only went for day release. There was lots of people at the college that were doing apprenticeships that went day release. I always found a car parking space, no problem, and I never knew of any of the lads that I was with that had problems. I'm really pleased that they're going to be doing apprenticeships there, and I think that we all should be really pleased about this, because this is definitely the way to go, and apprenticeships need to come back to the forefront of everything. I agree about the colour. I think the colour is, even though I love the colour yellow, it's not really, I don't really think it's the place for it, even if it is the college colours. But I'm sure that's negotiated, that should be negotiable at the nearer the end. I just think that it would be an asset at the end when it's all done. I think it would be an absolute asset to Daventry, to anyone that wants to learn, to the future, to the kids, to your kids, to grandkids. I just think it is, it's great. The lady said over there, the speaker, about that they've been here all these years and that they've helped work with the members of the public. That's what's happened, and hopefully, the lady said that they'll carry on to do that with the pitches and everything. So I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic. Thank you, Chairman. And actually, I would like to propose that we accept this. Officers advice.
Thank you. Do you have a second? There's two here you can choose from. Councillor Chandler or Councillor Boyd?
If I can come back after Councillor Chandler.
Councillor Chandler?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Members will know that I have a lifelong commitment to further and higher education, and this development is exactly, as my colleague has just been saying, exactly what this growing town needs in order to show that it's capable of providing the necessary support to the development of youngsters. So I'm all in favour of it and happy to second the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think there's a misconception on the street that the district council are the education authority, which is not the case. We are not the education authority. However, I think we, as a district council, have become very successful in being the enablers, and the enablers being that we've got a UTC, one of only 13 in the country. We have a new mind building. We're getting a special needs academy, and literally outside our back door there is a new building for the Cube, and we recently opened the mind building, again all education needs. So I think it's worth saying, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, we have a proposal, the application be approved. Sorry, I should have called the Councillor Swift. So we will hear you before we get to the vote.
Just listening to everybody, I thought no one is opposed to the college, but two questions: the colour, and it has already been mentioned, but also the fencing. So could we have something done for those two reasons, or that cannot come on in the condition, or could that be deferred for the officer to be able to modify and to see if other options are possible? Also, on a lighter note, the football club say that there's difficulty. I will remind them that they have two county councillors, Councillor Hill and Councillor Collier, and they have an empowerment fund, and I'm sure with that they could help the football club. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to
Chair, firstly, with regard to the external materials of the building, this is covered by our standard condition which requires the submission of samples of the materials. In fairness, the elevations show a limited amount of yellow, which is probably the strongest colour. The blues, of course, are actually windows. I mean, over time, I'm sure you'll find that whatever material is used for the external surfaces, it will weather, and the day it opens, it will probably look quite bright. But very soon the English climate will do its work. But in any event, there is a standard condition which requires the submission of samples of the material. So we will certainly bear your comments in mind. With regard to the fencing, the specified fencing is called weld mesh. And this is partly in response to the comments made to both the applicant and to the council by the police who were very keen to ensure the security of the building and the security of the staff and the children inside the building. Weld mesh is a very popular fence used in these circumstances. It's not it has a painted finish, and there again it is covered by one of the standard conditions recommended to your committee.
Thank you. Councillor French.
Yeah, just a very minor point. I'd just like officers to explore why there is not an 11-a-side pitch on site, and there's odd 5, 7 and 9, and I would have thought, and I would correct the officer and say they're not children on site, they are actually adults. Because they're all older, yeah. So the security is not as an issue as it would be with 5, 6, 7 year olds. But I would like to have seen an 11-a-side pitch on site for the college teams.
Well, Councillor, there is space for, you could have an 11-a-side pitch on there, but I think the specification on the application is to cater for a range of ages of participants in football. Obviously an 11-a-side pitch might be unsuitable for smaller players rather than the provision for a wide range of ages is to try and encourage people to develop and start on a small pitch, and as they get bigger, play on another side, a bigger pitch, and so on. And then the 11-a-side pitch will be provided elsewhere. Okay. That's the theory.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Just saying, the officer said about the yellow not being much there, and at the beginning it would be very bright. It is still, it is still a very bright colour, and you say it will be weathered. I'm sure it will be cleaned as well, so it is going to be bright. And I know it may sound a silly thing, but it is very bright, and I think the officer said it'll bear our comments in mind. I think we need a little bit more than that. I think that we do need to have a say on the colour. And I think either it goes to officers and or it comes back here. I know it sounds just something little, but yellow is a very, very bright colour.
I'm advised we don't normally condition colour, but I'm sure the applicant's here. The officers are hearing what you say, and if there's any way we can get together to let's say, dull it down, I'm sure.
There is yellow on that picture there in the middle.
I think it's also fair to say most educational establishments have got flashes of bright colour.
No,
All of the
I like the colour.
do have that.
I'd go with it, but that's going to be more that colour.
There's no more fascias with a colour on them on the new building than there is on the existing ones.
Okay. Right. Well, I wish you'd been around when I went to college, because I used to have a guy pick me up from Silverstone, because I couldn't drive at the time. So he came from Silverstone in a sports car to Longbury. He picked me up and we went to Wellingborough on day release. So I wish that day release had been in Daventry and there had been a facility there, because it was certainly a long day and a long drive there and back when you're younger anyway. Right, we've got a proposal that the application be approved and it's been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Right, those against? That's it. The application is approved. Anybody that was here for that application wants to leave quickly now. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for
There's two additions there.
Yeah, this is borders, yeah.
We move to the next application now, which is in Solby 0435. Let the officer sit down first, yeah. We'll get some pictures of as well.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for what's known as Mini Meadows Farm. Nicely raised Solby. For those of you who don't know where Welford is, it's just to the left on that picture, so you've got some idea how far away it is from the village. You'll see it's described as a part retrospective application for what has turned into the Rural Education Interpretation Visitor Centre, and it obviously attracts a lot of youngsters in particular having rural experience and meeting animals and learning about the countryside, etc. And I understand it's been very popular since it opened, and there does seem to be a deal of support for it. You'll see from the report that there was a previous resolution by the chairman that this could be dealt with under delegated powers, but that was subject to a couple of provisos, which were that we have the comments of the Welford Parish Council, which we do now have, and they actually say they have no objection, although they do mention concerns about opening times. And the other proviso was that they submitted highway details of tracking at the entrance. They have submitted that now, and what it's basically shown is that coaches or buses, show you visiting the site, do track across, which means that they take up most of the highway carriageway, and also the entrance into the site would need widening, so that when a large vehicle like a bus or coach is in the entrance, the car getting in can pass. Now my understanding is they're happy enough to modify the entrance. The main reason we brought it before you tonight is that you will see there's an objection, if you like, from the applicants to having to comply with the last suggested condition, which has been suggested by us on the back of the highway comments from the local highway authority, where they are saying they are concerned about the use of that lane going back to Welford. And originally they said they wanted the whole road widening back to Welford and put tapping outside. Well, to be fair, we said, well, we think that's really unreasonable. So we tried to look for a compromise, and the compromise was that there would be some passing bays provided along that road. Now, the applicant is arguing they don't see the need to do that, partly because the school bus goes down there, and there are also other properties further down there that have large vehicles visiting them. And I think we'd also point out that if it was in agricultural use, obviously there's lots of large agricultural vehicles. However, I think the Highway Authority, having considered this, and you see their detailed notes in the report, they're concerned that the number of people being attracted to the site isn't the same as it would be if it was just in a normal agricultural type use. And what they're saying is potentially there you see from the photos of people to drive onto the verge to avoid large vehicles coming the other way. And obviously, for those of you that live in rural areas, you know what happens when that starts happening during the winter months. Now obviously all the verges get churned up, there's mud all over the road, and obviously it does become a serious safety issue if you've got mud on the road and then you've got ice and various other things in the winter time. So I think effectively it's become a safety issue. So what the highway is seeking is, and what the officers are recommending as a condition, is that we do actually say, yes, we do want to look into providing some passing bays between there and Welford in order to make it safe for people to pull out of the way of large vehicles coming either way. So that's really the main reason it's been brought before you tonight, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. We have a speaker, Mr. King, just for the application.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak regarding the application. My name's Barry King. I work for BCAL Consulting, firm of Chartered Civil and Structural Engineers, and I'm a member of the Chartered Institute of Highways and Transportation. Just recapping, the Highway Authority in their consultation advised that we would not expect that the development site traffic would create any issues in terms of junction capacity or congestion. So the traffic flows aren't that as an issue. Subsequently, your planning officers recommended approval of the application. Obviously, however, following further exchanges, they've recommended the imposition of the two conditions that Keith just referred to. The applicant advised he's quite prepared to upgrade the site access further as required under proposed condition 7. However, we feel that the requirement under proposed condition 8 to improve the highway between the development and the A5199 network is both unnecessary and reasonable. We'd first remind you of the requirements of the Planning Circular 1195 and the NPPF, which requires that conditions are both necessary, relevant to development, enforceable, precise and reasonable. The development is located on a public highway. This is available for use by all road legal vehicles with no traffic restrictions in place on that road. Any vehicle legally allowed on the UK highway network can proceed on that carriageway adjacent to the site at the moment. The road past the site is used twice daily by a school bus, as you can see on the screen now, and is shown as being available on one of these request bus routes. Large highway and agricultural vehicles also serve neighbouring farms without problems. A neighbour at Woolies Farm has provided evidence that during the last 4 years they've received numerous deliveries by large goods vehicles and have not encountered any access issues, delays or congestion whatsoever on the Welford Road. And traffic serving Woolies Farm from the Welford direction does pass the Mini Meadows site. The majority of the highway between the development and the 5199 network is subject to a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, which means traffic travelling on this road is moving at relatively slow speeds. The road outside the development only carries very low volumes of traffic daily. A survey was carried out in November 2014 and that identified an average daily two-way flow of less than 300 vehicles. The development will only generate small numbers of coach or bus traffic. Coach parties are only accepted by pre-booking and no more than one can be accommodated on any particular day. The applicant has advised that school parties only visit during the latter part of the school year, typically May to July, and during 2013 to 2014 only 9 coach parties visited the site. The level of coach bus traffic visiting the site could therefore be considered as de minimis. The development has already been in operation for over 18 months, therefore the development traffic is already using the highway network and any major problems with this usage should already have become apparent. There's not been a recorded accident problem on the highway, nor does there appear to be a problem with regular congestion. It's estimated that to provide the passing bays would be likely to cost in excess of £50,000, a substantial sum for a small enterprise to pay. We would therefore request that you follow the office's recommendations to approve the application, but omit the proposed condition 8, which was demonstrated as not necessary and reasonable. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before we go to local members, Keith, you want to make a comment on what was said?
It's just on the £50,000 point, really, Chair. The County Council gave us some information and they said they thought each bay cost roughly £7,000 plus an additional £5,000 for traffic order or whatever to effectively sorted out. So, I mean, a figure of 4 bays has been bandied about, which would obviously be £28,000 plus the £5,000 on top of that, which is some way short of 50,000. But I'm only going on figures given by the County Council.
Thank you. Right, 2 members, local members. The one on the committee first, Councillor Winslow.
We have agreed with Richard Augers.
Councillor Augers. I've got an agreement. You go first, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, committee, for the opportunity to address you. May I also express my appreciation to the planning officers for the work undertaken in putting the report together. You've heard from Mr. Barry King, who has clearly presented, I feel, a compelling case demonstrating that Condition 8 on this planning application is neither necessary nor reasonable. Now, I do not intend to repeat Mr. King's well-argued submission. I merely want to express my support for his argument. When I decided to put my name forward to become a local councillor, I did so wanting to serve the public and, where I can, lighten their burdens and support them in receiving the public services they rightly deserve. I did not in my wildest dreams expect that as a council we could be the ones that could unnecessarily and unreasonably burden the very people we serve, and in this case to the tune of possibly tens of thousands of pounds. Mr. Barrowclough and his small business at Minnie Meadow Farm is an outstanding facility and provides wholesome entertainment and education for our local communities and for other communities in the region. He is striving to build his facility and build on his growing reputation of providing a quality, family-centred activities. He's not a Bovis or a Barrett Home Enterprise. He's a small businessman, and I feel that Condition 8 puts that small business in peril of becoming unviable, and this cannot be right. I ask the committee in all sincerity to approve the application but refuse the proposed Condition 8 on the basis that it is unreasonable and it is unnecessary. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It's very rare that we have some comment from the highway, so we do not ignore them totally. But in this case, unfortunately, I would like for the committee to ignore them. Which is, we complain all the time, but I visited Mini Meadow. It's supported locally. It provides a well-needed outlet for families in the summer, school, and in the winter. Not a lot of traffic. We are not talking of a bus a day and so on. Also, you have to realize that a bit further, if you have the picture, you have quite a lot of car using, because you have a parking just below Mini Meadow for the Solby Reservoir. And for me, two things are important. One is the widening of the entrance, and that would be done already. And secondly, maybe we could ask Mini Meadow to when on their website or to make all visitors aware of the narrowness of the lane, and that should be enough to not to justify the passing bay, because the passing bay will frustrate even more people. It's such a short stretch of road. So I would like to put a proposal is we accept the application in front of us, except Condition 8, and my councillor, the other councillor for the ward, Mr. Auger, did a very good job to explain to you why. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I would like to propose that without
made a
Condition 8.
proposal that to support the application but to omit Condition 8. Do you have a second then? Councillor Frenchman. You can speak as well, man.
Thank you. I have had the good fortune of actually visiting the facility, and I have to say that I was very impressed with the animal content and the way it was run. In fact, I would say that they keep quite a low profile, and I was quite surprised how few people were there, bearing in mind the weather at the time and the attractions they have. I think the Condition 8 is onerous because at the moment there is obviously a school bus that goes past there, agricultural vehicles and other assorted vehicles larger than lorries, and the verges did not look too churned up under those conditions that are currently there. So for that reason, and as a motorist, and I'm happy to pull over, I'm happy to support Councillor Swift's proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Frenchman. Councillor Paul.
Yeah, the one thing that you can do, I know this is retrospective, is offer congratulations. And the word is there: rural education, interpretation, visitor centre, refreshment facilities, gift shop, etc., etc. We have such a facility in Staverton, which comes out onto the whatever road it is, 420. However, there are adequate provisions to see which way I do have concerns. It doesn't, whilst we're saying passing bays, are we talking about 1 bay, 2 bay, 3 bays or 4 bays? I'm sure a compromise could be reached in the number of passing bays. We're not talking about megabucks, and whilst I appreciate the comments from our colleague, the local member, who is not on the committee, however, I use his experience in his previous capacity. But within his statement, communities in the region, local communities, and if our local facility in Daventry is anything to go by, once the word gets round, and it gets round more so by word of mouth, then the lane will increase in traffic of passenger vehicles. I'm talking about cars. Now, if we're only talking £7,500 for a passing bay, I'm sure there's got to be room for a negotiation, whether it be 1 passing bay, 2 passing bays, whatever. But now, yes, I do know I wouldn't want to put my car on the verge in adverse conditions, shall we say, pouring down the lane. It won't be long before that verge is chewed up, and we end up with a situation that we've got on the exit to Daventry on the A45, where all the verge is chewed up to pieces. So I think I'm happy with the wording, and I think we should put the passing bays in. But if members are opposed to that, then I'll have to go along with that.
Councillor French.
Yes, I just, if I could just ask a bit of advice of officers. Obviously, it's a contentious condition. Is it possible to, along the lines of saying we would pass this application minus condition 8, but monitor the situation, and if in 12 months it was a problem, it could be activated?
Really, you could do it the other way round, which is you could grant permission with a conditional, and the applicant's got a right of appeal just against that condition. I don't know whether they would argue what they've argued here, but it's basically unnecessary and unreasonable. I mean, really, they only have to win one of the test arguments to get it knocked out, which is that it's unnecessary. So it would ultimately be an argument, I guess, between the applicant's engineer and the county highways engineer as to whether it's necessary or not. We're just planners. We're just passing on the advice of the highway authority, really.
Thank you.
Councillor Osborne?
I was waiting, thank you, Chairman.
I did say.
You did say.
It's all right, then I've got my ears in, I know I need to borrow his hearing now. Councillor Paul, I must admit I don't agree with you at all about the what's it called, passing thing. It's not the long enough road for it, and you say that once the word gets round, because it sounds like an absolute fantastic facility, and it'll be brilliant for school kids. When you say that when word gets round, most of the time the kids are going to be at school anyway, so they're going to be organised trips, and they've already said, the gentleman already said that they don't take more than 1 coach load at each time, so that would be a 1 coach load. So it's not going to get any busier. You might have one here and there, but you're not going to get 2 or whatever at one time. So it isn't actually going to get any busier. It might have more people attending, but not all at the same time. So I think it's an absolute fantastic facility, and I think that young kids are going to learn absolutely loads, and probably parents and teachers whilst they're there too. So I think, I'm all for going for it and taking out condition 8, and good luck to them as well.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Councillor Randall?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Osborne's picked up a lot of what I was going to say. the fact that, if anything, I'd sooner see, no parking on the verges, because I can see that's the only thing that there's ever going to be cause of trouble. But as they're extending the car park, and like Councillor Osborne said, most of the time when they're school trips, they're pre-booked trips, they know exactly how many numbers are coming, so they won't overbook. And how many of our rural roads are like this all of the time? I know I cut across the back road and the traffic is extremely heavy. And most people who travel along these roads actually are aware. If there's a blind bend, you're always aware, you're always slowed down, ready to take into consideration there may be something coming the other way. So I'm quite happy to take that condition as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
I really wanted to add to what's just been said by the two councillors prior to me. I've lived down such a road for the past 25 years, and quite frankly, it's not really a problem not having many parking spaces, if any at all, passing spaces. Locals know where to stop and wait when they've got to stop and wait, and I could walk down that road almost any time of the day or night with a hoop in my hand and be hardly disturbed by traffic. I don't think we really realise how little traffic there is around these little roads, let alone not how much traffic. And I do not agree that we should have this condition in.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Owen-Swift again.
Yes, maybe Mr. Surfield could explain a bit how long the road is, because we are not talking about 5 miles. I think 2 miles is maybe the maximum, and I will say it's 1.5 miles. So passing beyond 1.5 miles, I think it's rather too much to say. As we said, it's onerous, and I think it doesn't pass the test. So if we could have the distance, it might. And it's not a single road. I mean, I use it from time to time, and we pass two cars in any case with no difficulty. So thank you. But if we could have the distance between the junction and Mini Meadow for the councillor to be able to judge.
It says 650 metres.
Yeah, back to Welford.
Yeah.
It goes the other way as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think the answer is I'm not a highway engineer, but there must be rules about how far apart these things have to be, given the various visibility issues within the road, and how far you can get before you can see the next one. But I say, I know a particular force being bandied about from somewhere. I don't know where that came from, whether somebody's done a quick roll of thumb investigation and said what it would be about 4, but I don't know is the honest answer.
Right, well, we've got a proposition that the application be approved, subject to the admission of number 8, which has been seconded. All those in agreement with that proposition, please show. Right, those against? 10-1. The application is approved, subject to the admission of condition 8. The next application is 0472, and it's in Brixton.
Thanks again, Chairman. This is a former garage site, some of you might recall. It used to be on the Northampton Road in Brixton, which closed down. But there was a workshop to the rear of the site which was retained for a while as a workshop, but eventually that's closed down. So now this application is going to replace that with houses. You'll see from the layout, originally it was submitted with an additional compound, if you like, over to the left-hand side, which was going to be a constructor's compound, and then they were hoping to retain that as a kind of builder's yard compound afterwards. But I think we pretty well said, well, we don't really think that's a suitable use in a residential area anyway. So that part of the application has gone away for now. So that's what that big open space for the left-hand side is. And you see the proposed layout there, and in particular, plot 4, which seems to be giving the most cause for concern, to the rear of what you'll see there, number 9 to number 12. I can't remember the name of the road, sorry, because the map's there. That's it, Saxon Heights. So it's the rear of 9 and 12 Saxon Heights. And we've got some photographs obviously showing you from inside the site. But basically the concern is that what's being proposed is a large 2-storey dwelling at the bottom of the gardens of those properties, and it's going to be an adverse impact on those properties. We've considered what's been said, and we've applied our normal standard which is 12 metres from the back of the house to the side wall of the adjacent property, where it's either blank or obscure glazed windows, which is the case here, and the windows are proposed to be obscure glazed. We've also had the plan revised where the roof on plot 4 has been modified now to be a hipped roof. So although you'll see an elevation and you'll see some photographs in a minute supplied by the neighbour, which might look like a big triangle sitting on the top, I would point out that that triangle is actually tilting away from the property because it's a hipped roof, so it's always in a plane falling away. So the height of the roof will be accurate, but it won't be straight on the boundary, it's falling away. I think that's what I wanted to say for now, Chairman, and you have a look at it.
Thank you, Keith. We've got 2 speakers. Mrs. Askew is against the application.
I own 11 Saxon Heights, and I'm also speaking on behalf of the owners of 8, 9 and 10 Saxon Heights. Our house is back onto the western side of the development under discussion. Our living accommodation, which is our lounges, kitchen, dining area, main bedroom, are all located at the rear of our properties facing east and thus looking out onto the planned development. When we bought our houses, we were aware that the site behind us would be redeveloped, and we have no objection to this in principle at all. Indeed, we agree that the development will improve the appearance of the area and make good use of the derelict site. However, we've got one overriding objection, and that is the house on plot 4, which is too close to our houses and too large. Whilst we appreciate that since we voiced our initial objections, there have been certain changes mentioned that have just been mentioned. These changes do not detract from the fact that this substantial house totally overshadows our properties. The future view from our houses is shown on the picture we've just submitted there. It's taken from the main bedroom of number 10, so you can imagine that the downstairs living area will be even more overshadowed by the side of the house number 4. As mentioned, our houses face east, so the only sun we get in our gardens is in the early morning. The house on plot 4 will not only shade our gardens, but will totally dominate the view from the rooms that we spend the majority of our time. Although the design has been modified from a half-hipped roof to a fully hipped roof, it makes little difference. The house itself remains very large and very close. In addition to our concerns about the overshadowing the gardens, we've concerned that it will also cause a disruption to the satellite dishes located on the rear of our properties. From our experience, we know that the trees up to 5 metres high in our rear gardens have interfered with the signals received by the dishes, so it will be inevitable that the plot 4 house will also cause problems with TV reception. Reducing the size of the trees to resolve the issue hasn't been a problem in the past, but it'll be much more difficult to overcome the interference caused by a house of over 8 metres high. We are unable to reposition our satellites at the front of our properties owing to a clause in our contracts forbidding any aerials, dishes, etc. to be visible. Our contention is that the house on plot 4 should be reduced to a single-storey building or repositioned further away from our properties. My neighbours, number 9 and number 10, both have small children, and they're very distressed by the signs and the location of the house on plot 4. They moved to Brixworth to give their children a better quality of life, and the size and the location of the house will prevent this from happening, and it will seriously impact on their quality of life. So I'd like you to consider our objections carefully. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Mr. Parnaby, Parish Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors, I'm afraid I've got to repeat some of the points that Mrs. Askew has made. Brixworth Parish Council has no objection as such to a housing development on the brownfield site at the rear of Saxon Heights. Indeed, the sensitive residential development there should be welcome. However, we do object to the form which the proposed development would take, and in particular that of the plot 4 because of its effect upon the existing building housing at Saxon Heights. In the case of plot 4, we have a fairly large dwelling house which rears up very close to the fence separating it from existing housing at Saxon Heights. This is bound to overshadow the neighbouring properties from the east. It will overlook these properties, and whilst the intention may be to fit windows with frosted glass, they will still be capable of being opened, thus interfering with the privacy of neighbours. Also, there's a close boarded fence intended to seal off this property from the existing development, and I foresee friction as a result of little boys kicking balls against this fence when the house is occupied. In its current form, the proposal for Plot 4 would seem to contravene both the NPPF and the safe policies which I'll mention. Section 7 of the NPPF attaches great importance to the design of the built environment, which should aim to ensure that developments will function well, add to the overall quality of the area, and use streetscapes and buildings to create attractive and comfortable places to live, work and visit, and which are visually attractive. I don't think that really suits in this case. Daventry District Policy, same policy GN2A, states that developments must be of a type, scale and design in keeping with the locality and should not detract from its amenities. Furthermore, the safe policy EN42C states that the scale, density, massing height, landscape, layout and access must ensure that the development blends well with the site and its surroundings, which I submit does not happen in this case. Now, surely the replacement of this house by a bungalow, of which there are a shortage in Brixworth, or the rearrangement of the footprint of the proposed development would enable it to concur with Section 7 of the NPPF and the same policy as I mentioned, and it would also relieve any anxiety on the part of the neighbours. Whilst I note there have been some changes to the design of the proposed building at Plot 4, we became aware of these too late for these to be considered by our committee. However, I can't see that they would have had anything other than a limited effect on our original objection. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Local member, Councillor Parker, I can see you at the back.
Thanks, sir. Yes, I agree with the previous speaker regarding GN2A and EN42C. I would also add to that R1E from Northampton Code strategy be of appropriate scale to the existing settlement, which I don't think this is. Some points to note, which some have already been mentioned, but I will go over them again. I know the compound has now been withdrawn, and that's going to be now enclosed by a 1.8 metre fence. I would have thought that the houses could be reconfigured on all the available land rather than what we're seeing there, because Plot 4 needs to be reconfigured, there's no doubt about it. In the amendment, I think it was the amendment to the amendment actually, the roof on Plot 4 is now fully hit, agreed, but we're still left with the west elevation wall, which you're looking at, 5 to 6 metres high, the guttering. Yeah, this is only 14.5 metres away from the existing houses. This must overshadow the neighbour's property. Last point, I remain very concerned that Condition 4 still allows a window, I don't know if you could go back one please, thank you, to be opened at 1.7 metres or 5 feet 7 in English. With the height, it will be possible to open that window and see directly into the neighbour's bedrooms. I just don't think that can be allowed, and I think if that was to go through, that should be closed permanently, and another method of removing the air should be sought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you, Chair. I can see that this is an ideal site for redevelopment, especially as it is a bit of an eyesore, as can be seen from the earlier photographs. Councillor Parker has actually stolen my idea, which is if there is no compound, there is that extra space, and I think that, I don't know whether it's deferred or
No, you have to deal with this one, and
okay.
they have to reapply.
Or appeal. But I don't know if the applicant is here, but it seems to me that I would not be happy living with that at the end of my garden, in that overbearing and situation, and I would happily propose that we refuse this particular permission on the basis of the comments that Councillor Parker made and the policies he quoted.
On mass and size?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a second? Councillor Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I can't put anything more than what's already been said, Chairman. The scale of mass is the problem. Technically, it complies with all the standards as it is. However, when you look at the red line, there's a considerable amount of space within that red line. So I would second the request to have the application refused, and I would simply say scale and mass as on plot 4.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody else wish to speak, or can we get some votes? Okay, we've got a proposal the application be refused because of the effect of mass and size on plot, well, on the plots of plot 4, on the effect of the houses bordering it. Those in agreement with that, please show. No, that's nobody against. Must be you. Oh, there is one against. So it must be 10-1 then. You can't count tonight. 10-1. The application is refused. The next application is in argument 0534.
Sorry, Chairman, I'm leaving.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this is site on the edge of Ardenwood. We see this place from history where it was considered the larger site was outside the village confines. And this is one of these times where it's an arguable point again, is it or isn't it within the village confines? And this time we thought the smaller site probably was in the village confines. So we said in principle on that basis we think it's probably okay. And we've also said, because of the latest requirements at the end of policy R1 on that basis, we also think it's an environmental improvement, but again that's open to discussion and debate. What has happened since it's come in is it has been amended to reduce the size, the height in particular, of the proposed pair of semis, and they do bear a similarity to the pair that are already there next door, which you'll see in the photographs. So I think really that's the issue, to be fair, whether it's acceptable improvement, if you like, within the existing village confines, or whether it's contrary to policy because it's outside the village confines and it's not an environmental improvement. So I think that's the issue, Chairman. We've said what we've said, but members might have a different view. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Local member not on the committee, Councillor Argo. Like to speak?
Yes, sir, but there's President.
Oh, there is indeed, yes. Yes, I think it would be wise if you spoke after the two speakers. We all have a bit of humour as well. Right, Mrs Kennedy is against the application. I do apologise, madam.
That's all right. I've got
I do it every time.
Come up, the ones that were on before that, the ones with the cars and on the side. Okay, I live in Middle Cottage, which is attached to the cottage, part of the development. I've come here tonight to speak on behalf of my village. I'm not going to repeat all of the objections raised, but would like to concentrate on 3 main reasons why this application should be refused. There is already a precedent against the application for development on this site. In 1989, an application to develop this site was refused on 2 grounds. 1, the site was deemed to be outside the village confines, and 2, access was inadequate to support further development. These reasons are still valid today for rejecting this application because these things have not changed. The site is still deemed to be outside the village confines, no proof has been produced to refute this, and the access is still inadequate for further development. The lane has not been widened, but vehicles are now bigger and wider, and there are many more deliveries due to online shopping, etc. Part of the proposed development site is used as an impromptu car park and turning area for the residents on the lane,
their visitors and delivery vehicles. I have supplied some pictures which I hope will illustrate just how narrow and steep this lane is. Yeah, that's the one. When these two cars were on the lane, a transit van had to mount the grass bank to pass. It would be impossible for anything bigger to pass on that lane. The pictures show only the two cars on the lane, but there would be many more parked on it as a result of the loss of this impromptu car park. The situation on the lane would become chaotic and dangerous with the introduction of further dwellings and all the traffic that would generate. I really can't stress enough how narrow this lane is. I only have one small car parking space, and when my son gets a car, he will have to park it on the lane, and all visitors to all of the houses on the lane will have to park on the lane as well. These aren't my pictures, by the way. Our village is very rural, so we do need our cars. Secondly, the proposed development site is not all scrubland, but is made up of part of an orchard, part tended garden, and the impromptu car park I have already mentioned. It is a well-used, valuable piece of green space, enjoyed not only by the residents of the lane, but also the wider community and the wildlife on it. 3. The design and size of the proposed 3-storey townhouses are more in keeping with town city developments. They are not suitable for the small lane. They're not sympathetic to the other properties on the lane. They would dominate the skyline. They will invade the privacy of the residents of the lane, the residents of Portsmouth House, the residents to the rear of the site, and they will make this part of the lane cramped, confined and overbearing. All the reasons why I left France. We also understand that the requirement for rural housing has already been met, so there is no need for further development. I respectfully hope that, having seen the pictures and from the veracity of all the objections raised, the committee will refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Guinness, the applicant.
Good evening. Picking up on some of the points, I think we've already agreed that the site is within the confines of the village boundary. The earlier planning applications to which have been referred were actually on the orchard, not on the scrubland to the side. So we've specifically split those two plots of land. The 1989 application was in the orchard, and that has been retained. The design of the properties have been based on the property next door, and we feel that is therefore in keeping. We have produced a transport statement that is specifically focused on the lane and the amount of traffic to include the Black Barn project. And whilst the road is narrow, it has good visibility and is considered to be acceptable in the village context by those compiling the report, Northampton Highway and the planning officer involved. Further, we are providing a turning head for bin lorries, fuel lorries, emergency vehicles and delivery trucks, which will benefit everybody living in the lane and those delivering to the lane. We are planting a number of semi-mature trees, replacing a lambda hedge with a native hedge, and generally enhancing and increasing the green within this area of the village. We have taken into consideration all of the observations and objections and worked hard to deliver a scheme that addresses those concerns. We have reduced the ridge height by nearly a metre. It is now a foot higher than the property next door, and that is because it is going up a hill. We have removed the dormer windows, which were causing privacy concerns to the rear, and we have reduced the overall mass. The planning officer is supporting the proposed scheme, and I would respectfully ask the committee to support the scheme as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask you, so the committee know, there was a picture earlier on that showed you 4 cars, which I think was on the site. Where are they? Your cars, or are they somebody else's cars, or where will they go?
They are parked on our property. They belong to. If you stop clicking, should I point it out?
Yes, you can.
There's a new parking space being made as part of this process here for the owners of the cottage, and we have got creating 4 spaces outside in this area here because the property is slightly set back to accommodate the parking here.
So they're your cars in effect, are they?
No, they're not my cars.
Yeah.
No.
The local residents, and it's private property. They're actually not technically supposed to park on it.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I want to know, so the committee were aware. Now I've got it in the right order, Councillor Argley. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee, again. Again, I'd like to express my appreciation to the planning officers and sterling what they do, and in this report, there's no difference in my admiration for their work. I'd also like to thank Bernadette Kennedy, who is there with a small delegation from her community, and I commend her for her willingness to be here and speak. You know, I find it slightly nervous. And this is my third one, so I do appreciate you coming and speaking on behalf of your residents. Having met the local residents' chair and visited the site, I acknowledge they have genuine fears regarding this application, not only on the detrimental impact it's going to have on their local community, but also the fact that it actually does fail to meet the requirements laid out in Policy R1 of the Joint Core Strategic Local Plan. I respectfully add my support to these objections raised by the residents and draw your attention to one particular one, which is point G in Policy R1, that states that any planning application must be within the existing confines of the village. Mr Guinness said that we have all agreed it is. There is no agreement here. There is no agreement, and that we believe that this application falls foul of that requirement. Having spoken to the planning department myself, I've been told that there is no definitive map that informs us as to what is in or what is out of the confines of the village. Although a map is about to be produced, there is no date to when that will be completed. So at the moment, there is no map that defines whether this site location is either in or outside. So without a definitive map to resolve this crucial point, and it is crucial, then surely we must look for some other guidance in determining its location. I do not believe we should rely upon personal or professional opinion alone. In this matter, I feel we are extremely lucky, as a previous planning application that included this site was put before the planning committee in 1989. At that meeting, the application was refused, and the committee concluded that the location of the application sites then and now was situated beyond the village confines. I'm aware of no subsequent circumstances that could reverse their conclusion. There you have it. Without a definitive map available, we do have a case study that gives us a definitive ruling. I therefore respectfully request the committee take full cognizance of this 1989 ruling and refuse this application as it fails to meet the requirements of point G in Policy R1 of the Joint Core Strategic Local Plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members. Councillor Paul.
I do have to take professional advice now and again. It is outside the confines of the village. It is, as far as I can see, beyond the last building. And if we want to be pedantic, we have reached our land supply. And do we need any more buildings, either infill or not, the 5-year land supply says we don't, but it is definitely outside the confines of the village, and I'm happy to propose that we refuse the application on those grounds.
Thank you. Do you have a second? Councillor Frenchman, and you wish to speak as well?
Yes, again, Councillor Poole has said much of what I was going to say, but I also understand that because we've made our rural allocation, the second part of R1 has come into force, and I don't think this application. I think this application fails. Was it a particular one you mentioned, the environmental?
Like you said, you argued it was an environmental improvement, which is the view we're taking, but clearly you could take the contrary view.
I am doing it. And I do have a worry, having seen some of those photographs, that if planning permission was granted, how any delivery vehicles taking bricks and what have you to a building site would actually get through without serious detriment to the verges and possibly damage to cars and other personal property. So I'm happy to second the proposal that it is, by definition of the previous decisions, outside the village confines and is contrary to. Is it a specific part of R1?
R1,
it's an extra.
R1G, which says next to the confines of the village, and then there's the second part, which is you say now kicks in, which is I2.
Yes.
But it's basically outside the village confines, and then the environmental improvements is little I, because it's
Yeah. So that I would add that if council would happy with that.
Yes, I'm happy with it. I'd also make another comment, if I may, Chairman, which came from the floor, an unofficial speaker, so to speak, with where those cars are allegedly parked on that piece of private ground. If that ground is to be occupied by a dwelling with a couple of cars, parking spaces, where are those cars going to park? So
the applicant did say he was making 4 more spaces.
Okay, even though we
the houses. Thank you. Right, nobody else wishes to speak. We have a proposal for the application.
Can we just make the comment that where are they going to park tomorrow morning? Because it's a private site, they shouldn't park around in the first place.
I'm sorry, we can't speak now. I do apologise for that. We have a proposal.
Can I just make one comment, please?
Yeah.
I do get concerned when I read something like this, because it's actually down here in black and white by our planning officer. The site is considered to lie within the village confines. Now we're being told it's not. It's got to be one or the other. It can't be both.
If I could just come back on that point, Chair, the point's already been made, to be fair, that there is no plan that shows where the village confines is. The thing we rely on now is what's called paragraph 4.90 in the policy HS 22, which basically sets out as a word definition what the village, existing confines of the village will take it to be. And that's all we have at the moment, and that has been open to interpretation for a long time now, but I'll read it out if you want me to. It says, for the purposes of this policy, the existing confines of the village will be taken to mean that area of the village defined by the existing main built-up area, but excluding those peripheral buildings such as freestanding, individual or groups of dwellings, nearby farm buildings or other structures which are not closely related thereto. Gardens or former gardens within the courtesies of dwelling houses will not necessarily be assumed to fall within the existing confines of the village. And then it goes on, it doesn't really matter in this case, so the construction of a bypass around the village will not mean any land between it and the bypass. It's within the confines of the village. But basically what it says is it's open to interpretation, and clearly where you've got a site here on the edge of a village, you've got to have regard to the buildings, built-up area of the village, because that's the main thing it says there, the existing main built-up area, but excluding peripheral buildings. So, to be honest, it is open to interpretation. You could take a view. We're giving you our officer's interpretation. Members could have a different interpretation. If that was right in the middle of the village, then I would say to argue it's outside the confines of the village is ludicrous, but as it's literally on the edge, I think it's a reasonable argument either way.
And the same goes for the environmental improvement point, so it's quite covered.
Well, I will say again that this report has been put together by an officer, and it says the site is considered to lie within the village. Now, yes, but now it's being overturned, so it could have been the other way. So surely we have to go. Why do we have a report if it's going to be changed?
Some things are borderline, I think it's probably.
Chairman, it was always over thus. The only limits you have in rural areas under the Daventry District Local Plan are in the limited development villages such as West Haddon, Long Buckby, etc., where they are actually defined. All the restricted infill villages, there was never any definition of what the extent was other than the textual description, which you can see is very much open to interpretation. It is clearly on the edge of Ardingworth. I don't think anybody would dispute that. The issue then becomes, is it within Ardingworth on the edge or just outside? And that's just got to be a matter of judgment.
Well, in that case, from now on then, please can we have them check beforehand so that all the it's all the same.
I think, to be fair to the officers, Councillor Raymond, I'm sure you know that sometimes planning points are sort of can be, they're not black and white. It's the only thing that's not black and white. Sometimes you can say, the officer could say that, and yet, I mean, I'm not sure whether this could, let's say it was refused for this reason, and it went to appeal and won. You'd say, well, the members sort of reversed it and the officers were wrong. Well, the officer is telling you it's a finely balanced thing and open to interpretation. So, to be fair, I wouldn't kill 30 yet.
I think that's what I was going to say to you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, this is the classic kind of site that I've dealt with on appeal over all the years I've been here, where obviously the council has said it's outside and the appellant has said it's inside. And some you win and some you lose. And the inspector, well, if it goes to an appeal, well, go there and have to take a view, basically. But I can't, you know, I can give you my opinion or the officer's opinion that it's inside the confines of the village, but I can't say the committee are wrong, given that all we've got to rely on is that definition I've read out, to say, well, in this case, we don't agree, we think it's outside the confines of the village. As I said, if that was a site right in the middle of the village and you were trying to argue it's outside the confines, and you're surrounded on all four sides by other development, then I think I would be saying to you, you're wrong, and you can't have that as a reason for refusal. So, we're on the board here.
Okay, we've got a proposal, the application be refused.
So at the risk of being ejected from the chambers, the planning approval that's been quoted is...
Where's that coming from? I'm sorry, but nobody else can speak now, except members of the committee. We've got a proposal the application be refused for the given reasons, beyond the confines of the village and the additional... Yes. Which has been seconded. All those who agree with that, please show.
6, 7, 8.
Right, those against?
1.
The application is refused for the given reasons. Right, the next application is in Daventry and the number is 0545.
Are we good for 11? That's what the back. She's so quiet.
You just got to a different seat.
That's got to be a record.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a site in the open countryside between Babby and Staffordton. The site has had a number of planning applications over the years, including a construction of a replacement dwelling and garage. A log cabin has been removed from the site, which has been used as accommodation for the applicant to live on the site during construction of the proposed replacement dwelling. The applicant now wishes to use the garage's third floor accommodation as residential, whilst the replacement dwelling is being constructed. Once the replacement has been constructed, a condition is recommended so that it remains ancillary to the main house. It is considered that the proposal will not have an adverse impact on the locality. Overall, it is recommended for approval, subject to the inclusion of a condition relating for it to be a temporary for 3 years. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Local member. Councillor Patchett.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't generally have a problem with this. Just a little bit of local knowledge in that the property on the right-hand side is the old hospital, and we approved 5 dwellings next to that just recently. But yeah, there's not a lot to say really, and I don't particularly like the store that's been built behind it. It looks like a house, but in fact a machinery building, machinery store building. Being a self-builder, I know exactly what the applicants are saying, and don't have a problem with it, Chairman. So I'm happy to recommend approval. Propose approval, sorry.
Do you have a second? Councillor Osborne.
Yeah.
Do you wish to speak, Councillor
No.
Osborne? No. Okay. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Paul.
I do have a problem with it. I have a problem because we're approving a dwelling. Temporary, self-contained residential dwelling. That's the reason I have a problem with it. And it will no longer be a residential dwelling after 3 years. By the same token, conditions could be changed in 3 years' time, and it is then a dwelling. So I do have a problem if, as it said, that the dwelling needs to be built for a temporary use for the building of another residential property. What's wrong with putting a caravan on there? What's wrong with putting a mobile home on there? Quite honestly, there are ways and means of getting extra dwellings through a back door. Quite honestly, I don't like the idea of it. I foresee that the conditions will be challenged in 3 years' time. I can't agree with my colleague who will recommend approval. And the other part being is that, you know, if you look at the plan yet again, it's outside the confines of the village. So, two reasons for me not to vote in favour of the application.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Councillor Osborne.
Can I just remind the committee and the lovely Councillor Paul that you're supposed to be looking at what's in front of you and not what might happen in the future, even though we all do get very concerned sometimes about what might happen in future. But we have no say about that. It's as it is at the moment, and at the moment it's for 3 years and for 3 years only. Who knows what's going to happen then? We might not even be here then. You just don't know, do you? So, you know, you really can't refuse it for that reason, Councillor Paul. So, yeah, I just think we ought to let it go ahead. It is only temporary.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Councillor Robertson.
Yeah, I'd just like advice, please, as to what is meant by ancillary to a dwelling. Does that mean it can be used as another dwelling, or just as part of a dwelling, or what?
No, basically, sort of, it's still as main residential units, but potentially if they've got guests or someone coming and staying, that they can use that as potentially.
So they could use it as a guest house and all that. Yeah. Or yes, so effectively we're out. Exactly.
Councillor Frenchman.
Yes, I'd also like to ask officers' advice whether we could actually propose that the time scale is 1 year, but is renewable, rather than a 3 years time span.
Although Councillor Paul raised this as an issue, and Councillor Osborne suggested it isn't an issue, what we've got here is somebody doesn't need planning permission to put a temporary caravan on the site while they're building the dwelling. Now, from my reading of this, and I wasn't involved in this at all, they chose to take that temporary dwelling away. Now they're saying, we want to live in this, which requires planning permission. So you've got to be saying, well, if you could have a caravan on the site without planning permission to build this house, and that's what you were doing, why did you take that away and suddenly want planning permission to live in here? Well, if we were giving you planning permission for a house on the site, you could have your caravan back on the site and carry on living there while you build the house. So how long is it going to take to build the house is the real question we should be asking. And I think a year is probably too short, to be honest.
Yes, I was going to say that.
But it is all wrapped up in part of the issue, to be honest, because the only reason this is being solved is because the argument that justified it is, well, I could have a caravan there when I built the house. Well, have a caravan there then while you built the house, but you took it away. You've kind of created this need by taking that caravan away. So how long are you prepared to have somebody living in there, basically, is the question, I guess, which we're being asked. I think a year is not long enough, to be honest. But clearly, we want them to finish building the house they got permission for and not to live in here forever. So there's got to be somewhere between us.
I wasn't suggesting that we only give them a year, but I didn't know.
No, but I think if it's renewable on a yearly basis, I think a year is probably too short. If the intention is they're living there while they finish the house, I think personally that's too short. Another alternative is just like, well, have the caravan back then, which is what's been suggested. That doesn't need planning permission.
Chairman, the one issue you've got, and I do find myself slightly taking issue with Councillor Austin, is this is a change of use application. So once you change it, whether for a year, or 2 years, or 3 years, the principle of use as a residential property has been established. Now, you may do it on a temporary basis, but that principle has been established. So it does make it a lot easier for an applicant 1, 2, 3 years down the line to say, well, actually, I want to make this permanent.
So, Councillor Paul?
Well, having listened to that explanation, could we act of it? It's outside of the village, it's in open countryside. Many times, we've sat here and applications have been refused for those very reasons. I'm still of the opinion that we should refuse the application, even more so listening to legal advice.
Well, we've got to deal with a first proposal first, which is as a proposal to approve the application, which has been we hear what you're saying, Councillor Robertson.
Well, just quickly was going to say, this does more and more, the more and more we discuss it, it does look to me as if it's an application for a dwelling by stealth.
Thank you. Councillor Paget?
Yeah, can you put the map up of the site again, the site map? You see in the top right-hand corner of the red line, you see the little building next to the tree. What's the picture of a tree?
Yeah.
We gave permission for that, I think, under delegated powers in the end, wasn't it?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know that a bit of the planning history of that particular site. That was for, it was a old cottage, which was pretty much in the remains, or not even remains.
That was the retrospective one, wasn't it?
I think if you have to members, you've got to cite yourself, what is the justification for this temporary accommodation in the open countryside? And the justification is on building a new house on the site next door. But as I've said, you can have a caravan on the site while you do that. You don't need to be living in here to do that. And it appears from reading this, which is the only knowledge I have of it, that that's actually what was happening, and it was taken away for some reason, which I don't know anyway. So,
okay. If there's no more questions and no more points, we'll go to the proposal that the application be approved as per officers' advice. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3. Those against? Right, so the application is not approved as per officers' advice. We need another application now, another proposal. Councillor Owings, sorry?
I propose to follow officer advice.
Sorry?
No, sorry.
Councillor Frenchman, you've got the final point. I'll let Councillor Frenchman do it and you can second it.
Sorry.
Yes, well, I follow what Councillor Paul said, basically, that I think we should refuse it. It's in open countryside and outside the confines of the village. We've also, just as a bypoint, he's going to take time to convert that into a house. Well, he could be building his house while he's doing that, but that's another point.
We're saying we don't feel the justification, as I understand.
Yeah, is that a planning reason?
Yeah, well, you've got access 24 basically in the open countryside.
Yeah.
So it's either got to be agricultural there or a conversion. And it isn't really either as such, it's a new dwelling.
Yes.
You're happy with the reason?
Yeah.
Councillor Owings-Swift
I can second now. Sorry.
Thank you. All those in favour of that proposition, please.
Which was to reject the plan.
Yes.
Reject. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Those against? The application is refused for the reasons given. Next application is CRIP 0635.
Thank you, sir.
But this is another site in the open countryside, but there's some more justification behind this one. But I'll wait for the photos and the scheme to come up first. Thank you, Chairman. This is a site in the open countryside which was granted permission for a livery back in 2006 and 2004 outside the village of Crick along the Crick to West Haddon Road. The business has been operating for a number of years now, and in order to expand, a residential property is now proposed, including the additional 5 stable block building to expand the business. HS24 allowed for the construction of new dwellings in the open countryside if it's for the purpose of agriculture. Technically, the use is not for agriculture but equine. Paragraph 55 of the framework, which is a material consideration in determining this application, allows for isolated dwellings in the open countryside, provided there is an essential need. As a result, the applicant has provided information to demonstrate the need. Clemens, our agricultural consultant, is satisfied there is an essential need for the workers' dwellings to be on site, and also the crime prevention design advisor also supports it. Therefore, the proposed dwelling accords with paragraph 55. The overall design of the proposed dwelling is in keeping with the rural nature, although slightly larger than what you would expect to see as a workers' dwelling, given the nature of the business. You would expect for the applicant to provide some entertaining space. The location of the stables is next to the existing stables, and it will not have a detrimental impact on the character locality. Overall, the applicants have demonstrated an essential need, and overall the proposal will not have a detrimental impact on the character locality, which is close to a special landscape area. The proposal is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Catherine. We have a speaker, Ms McPherson.
Thank you, Chairman, members and officers for this opportunity to speak. My name is Ivy McPherson and I'm the applicant. I purchased the holding in 2011 and since then have built up a successful equestrian business comprising of 3 elements. Firstly, competition livery. There are currently 5 horses in competition livery where the horses are owned by a third party. I have full care of the animals and compete them on behalf of the owners, specialising in eventing and dressage. The horses can be worth a substantial amount of money and compete at all levels. Secondly, syndicate competition horses. I also buy in young event horses and produce them for competition. Once competing, they are either sold on or people can buy shares in them as an individual or as a syndicate. This allows people who cannot afford their own horse to have the chance of being an owner of a top-class event horse. There are currently 4 syndicate horses on the farm. Thirdly, and most importantly, rehabilitation livery. This is the main enterprise where clients send their horses to me for rehabilitation after an injury, operation, or ill health. Horses are with me for anywhere between a week to a year, depending on the level of rehabilitation needed. At present, I live in rented accommodation in West Haddon, some 3 miles away, and it has now come to a point where my business is unable to grow any further as clients are concerned about the fact there is not somebody on site 24 hours a day. I work full-time on the yard. I'm in charge of overseeing all the animals and ensuring they are being cared for properly. On a daily basis, I carry out all normal yard duties, including mucking out, feeding, turn out, on top of exercising the horses, putting them through the hydrotherapy spa, assessing health and any lameness, dealing with injuries and liaising with clients. I also compete some of the liveries throughout the week. I employ 1 full-time and 1 part-time member of staff. My objective is to provide a comprehensive rehabilitation service, open to all disciplines at all levels, up to world-class and elite sports horses competing internationally and representing Great Britain. There is an essential need for me to live on site in order to provide the necessary welfare needs and care of my clients' horses and for the security of the business. There is also a need to ensure that the horses are cared for 24/7. In case of an emergency, I need to be on site to ensure the welfare of the horse is not compromised. The overall security of the site and the horses is paramount, not only against accidental and criminal damage, but also from a biosecurity perspective. I'm pleased to see that your officers and your agricultural consultants support my application and agree that there is essential need for me to be on site. Please follow your officer's advice and grant planning permission for this proposal, which is in line with your policies and national planning policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Local member.
Thank you, Chair. I've read this report comprehensively, and it's very, very well written, very well put together. And I do believe what it says. This application, although it's in the open countryside, is for the expansion of an equestrian business. Quite a serious business at that, by the looks of it. And I'm therefore very much in favour of it. The parish council have objected mildly to it on the basis that the building's too big. There's some argument there, not much of one, quite frankly, and dwelling's a dwelling, and this isn't overly big, it's just it's above the average, if you ask me. Now, the reasons for it are perfectly clear. I do believe that we should vote in favour of this, and I therefore would like to propose here and now that we accept officers' advice.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a seconder? I'll take Councillor Randall because she put her hand up earlier on.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to go with the officer's advice on this one. Obviously, for all the reasons stated, there is a need actually to have a dwelling on site. And I'm sure we're all aware of the rural burglaries that have been going on from many yards, and obviously for the house, not only is she going to be living in it, I assume that's going to be a place of work as well. So obviously it's going to incorporate her office and everything. And as she's growing her business, I'm sure that will become a family home for the future. So it seems a very good put together application.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick?
Yeah, I'm just happy to support the rural business, Chairman.
Well, it's on the edge of the bit that I represent, and the lady comes from West Ham as well. If you go a bit further up the A428 towards West Ham and turn right at the crossroads and bury down there for about a mile, you'll come across another set of horticulture which has been going on for years, and I've visited it for years and years and years. It's slightly different from what they do here, but it's run well, it's run properly, and I'm sure you're aware of the other people that are very, very close to you. I've got absolute support for you, so I support you too. Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you. What we've heard, international business in the rural community ticks all the boxes, and many congratulations to the applicant. I do have concern with Quick Parish Council. My colleague said it was almost a throwaway, but who are they to decide the size of a house for an agricultural worker? Because he works on a farm, do we have to put him in a shed? No, I object to that, Chairman, but all congratulations to the applicant, and I'm totally in favour.
Thank you. We have a proposition, the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. Unanimous. Thank you. Your application is approved, young lady.
So don't build a shed in the garden.
So don't go and sell it as a house now.
And don't cry on the way out. It ruins the carpet.
Right, we come to the last report, and that's which Keith will present.
It's very brief, Chairman. Members might be aware that we, thanks to Mr. Pickle, for mentioning my name, we have to renew our list of local requirements every 2 years. Because he brought that in saying they have to be reviewed every 2 years. And amazingly, I couldn't believe it, but 2 years is up. So we've had to review our list of local requirements again. And the other thing that he brought in was that if we didn't have an up-to-date list of local requirements, then he couldn't insist on these things being submitted with planning applications. So we've had to go out to consultation again on it, which is what you have to do, and ask anybody if they've got anything they wish to say. And between the three responses, two of which were no, we're quite happy with it, and the other one was from the Environment Agency, who made some sensible suggestions, partly because the way the Environment Agency actually operates has actually changed over the last 2 years. You'll probably know now that the County Council are now what they call the lead local flood authority, and the Environment Agency are taking more of a back seat. So the advice they gave was good, really. So we're saying, yeah, we take on board what they have to say, and then we adopt it as we had it anyway. But we haven't updated it since the previous iteration, but it is a pretty boring read if you just want to read it from cover to cover. It goes through all the various application types and all the various things you have to submit. So it's a bit like the council constitution in that sense. It's not a novel. You can't read it from cover to cover.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, you've received the advice.
So you just like to agree, that's all it is. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, we won't bother with the proposal. It's a unanimous agreement, is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.